as a Texans fan, if I have to watch DeAndre Hopkins like single-handedly beat another team like that anymore, I'm going to drop a toaster in my bathtub.
All right, guys, welcome to our podcast this week. Week 1 in the NFL is finished. So we've got to go through and we've got to do what you're supposed to do after week 1. We have to overreact to things because that's everything that week 1 explains everything. It reveals everything and nothing changes about any of your opinions after week 1. We do have a new person joining us on the podcast, so I'll let him introduce himself vaguely and let you know who he is and where he's from, and we'll move on from there.
All right, what's up, guys? My name's David, and I recently moved to Arizona from Seattle, as you can tell. Go Seahawks. I know Ben here from going to church. I'm the men's director, and we've led a couple small groups together, and we both love sports. So thank you for having me, guys.
All right. So we're going to go on to – this is going to be kind of a little bit of a loose just give you guys a little heads up what I was going to do. So, yeah, like I said, it is overreaction. That's what we're supposed to do in week 1. So some of these overreactions are going to be, oh, my goodness, that's so over-the-top reaction that just will be funny. And maybe it'll prove to be true, and then we're going to look even dumber for laughing at how silly it is. But then other ones are honestly legitimate things of, you know what, did we actually really learn a lot from week 1? It has happened. We have learned the things that go on to do play in the rest of the year in week 1. So we're just going to go through and just bounce around here for the next little bit. We'll go through. I got to get my watch timer here going. But just for the next little bit, we're just going to go ahead and go through. Dave, if you're the guest, if you want to give us an overreaction, if you've got one ready, what happened? What do you have to overreact to from this weekend?
After watching the Arizona Cardinals and 49ers games, the 49ers are going to finish dead last in the NFC West.
You know what? I want to argue that. My brain wants to argue that, but that was already a pretty competitive division to begin with. And if you slip any, you could go from the Super Bowl to last in that division because that division's pretty competitive to begin with. As a Texans fan, if I have to watch DeAndre Hopkins like single-handedly beat another team like that anymore, I'm going to drop a toaster in my bathtub. That was not fun. Bill O'Brien, you're a terrible human being, and I deserve an apology for having to deal with you.
I don't think that's a very hot take. That division's tough. You're pegging your hopes on Jimmy G, who had one solid backup season as the Patriots. I mean, John Lynch is the GM, and I'm a huge Lynch fan, being a Bucs guy. But that is tough. That's a tough place with good quarterbacks and good coaches. So it's not a huge stretch to see the Niners jumping there last in the division at all.
This was going to be one of mine, but I couldn't actually decide which direction I wanted to take it because it was either going to be either the 49ers are really not good anymore. I can't decide. Is it that the Cardinals have actually gotten, I don't want to say great, but the Cardinals have actually gotten good and competitive? Or are the 49ers just not, because it was a close game, but watching it, yes, we live in Arizona, so that was the game we got to watch. Didn't have a choice. Couldn't watch Brady and Breeze duel that one out. Wasn't allowed to watch that, but I did get to watch Arizona. But it didn't feel as close as that game was. Like, it really felt like Arizona kind of handed that. And I think a big portion of that does, in this, to somewhat temper expectations of why that may be a hot take that might not play. Kittle did miss the entire second half, or he was not right the entire second half. As a Kittle fan, I felt it.
Yeah, glorified distraction.
Yeah. Like,
so that, yeah, go ahead.
I get that. Yeah, and missing Kittle is a massive part of that offense gone, like for sure. But is it just me, or is like Kyler is like a baby Russell Wilson? Like,
He's a heck of a lot faster than Russell Wilson.
I mean, yeah, but Russell Wilson was a little bit faster a few years ago, too. But Kyler is, I love, and I think, and that is all shout out to Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's a top 3 quarterback in the league. But man, Kyler just does that same kind of stuff. And look, if you're gonna be 5'10" and trying to be a quarterback, you better be Russell Wilson. And
I
go ahead.
was reminded about his height multiple times in this game. And that could actually, I mean, that's another, that once you start figuring out how to slow down the other thing, that's when it really could come back. There were a number of times when he leaned back to throw, as he has to, being 5'10", and it still got swatted. It's still that. So it does have me a little bit. But the Russell Wilson comparison I like, but the nicest thing I like about it is, for the sake of Cardinals fans, the sake of everyone else, he knows how to slide. That was the thing Russell Wilson always knew how to do, was slide. And that's how you stay healthy as a quarterback. Having had a few young quarterbacks, the Broncos fan, who didn't know that right away, who decided to lean with shoulders at first a couple times, it creates some issues. So that was good, but it's.
I mean, to throw some shade at my fantasy quarterback, it's how you avoid having 2 fumbles. Josh Allen.
One thing I will state with the Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, is that it's also on the Cardinals to keep them safe. Being from the Northwest, there was a period of time when that Seattle line was the worst constructed line in the NFL. They would grab large, failed NBA prospects and throw them in on the NFL line, hoping that they could do something, because they literally ran out of money to pay anybody. And so this, as much as we look at it, like, yeah, there's some decent comparisons with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. One, if there's no Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray doesn't get drafted, period. He maybe goes in the 7th round. Absolutely. So Russell got him that contract. But the Cardinals also have to learn from the mistakes of Seattle when those wasted 4 years of Wilson, where they didn't put any protection behind him. They didn't draft any help on offense. They just said, hey, we've got a dynamic playmaker back here. Maybe we can figure something else out. Because that line play is big, which will lead to my hot take now, if you don't mind me jumping forward.
That's how you go for it.
2020 Giants have the worst offensive line we have seen in the NFL in the last 10 years. How do you have Saquon Barkley getting negative yardage in a half? That guy is built like a movie star. He's got muscles on muscles in his speed, in his quickness. And when you start getting negative contact in double digits, it was 12 times that he got hit before he ever hit the line of scrimmage. How do you do that? That is the worst line that we have seen in the last 10 years, to my recollection.
To be fair, they did hire Jason Garrett to be their OC, so just saying, like, what were you expecting?
Well, is that the overreaction, or is the overreaction that Shaq was he's done? It's over.
I don't think Saquon's done. No, but it's just like, remember this time last year we did our fantasy preview, at the beginning of last season, and I said the offensive line was so bad that I was staying away from Saquon in drafts because the offensive line was so bad. The offensive line is worse this year. Like, it's bad. And it's going to be a Bo Jackson situation with Saquon. I'm terrified it's going to end up being that way where he's going to get hurt and it's going to be something irreparable. And we're going to be robbed of one of the more dynamic and exciting running backs in a time when running backs are not really dynamic and exciting like they used to be.
And that whole position needed Saquon to be successful and a game changer because the Giants got mocked for taking him second. And currently, the Giants are proving all of the critics right in the fact that you don't take a running back at number 2, period. Even if you are the freak that is Saquon, there is just so much else that goes into a successful running game that's not the running back. So, poor Saquon. I don't know if we need to start a free Saquon rally.
Speaking
don't
of
know.
people misusing their running back, I've got a hot take I can throw out there.
Dave.
Oh yeah, Dave. Yeah.
On that one?
I'm gonna agree. Like, there's one running back that can run through getting hit in 3 yards in the backfield, and that guy's Marshawn Lynch. And you know what? As awesome and dynamic as Saquon is, he's not Marshawn Lynch. They need to figure out how to get that guy in space somehow. Because the one play he made the whole game is out in space where the quarterback was getting hit. Because again, just awful O-line play.
It's bad. Speaking of misusing your running backs, does Cleveland need to fire their coach again? Like, how do you have Chubb and Kamara on your team and line up multiple first downs with an empty backfield? Like, first off, your quarterback is Baker Mayfield. I want him making as few decisions as possible, period. Like, he's not good. If we're going real hot takes, I don't think he's a starting quarterback next year. I borderline don't think he's going to last the entirety of this year as a starting quarterback. It's terrible misuse of the only option you really. I mean, were they that scared of Calais Campbell? I don't get it. I don't get it. It was terrible offensive game planning.
You should not have an offense that has Javar Landry, Odell Beckham, Chubb, and Kareem Hunt and put up 6 points. That should never happen. And your line's not terrible. That's the thing. It's not a poorly constructed offensive team. And to even think like you've got to fire a coach, as crazy as that is, like, yes, this is an awkward offseason because you had no preseason. You had minimal training camps. Like, it is a little different and a little weird, but you should still, with those individuals, be scoring more than 6 points. That is absolutely unacceptable. If the Jaguars can put up over 20 points, you, with that team, should be able to score 6.
It's hard to say that just because I think that's the league we're in. Like, if you don't hire a retread coach or an old school coach from a long time, that's the league. The league is you are going to line up empty backfield. Like, that's the thing. That's just the way that's the way the league has become, or that's where the league arrives to, that empty backfield is a standard thing. That's just the way it is. Even, I mean, fourth down, how many fourth and ones did we see this week and they passed? Like, it's a passing league unless you have Shaquan or Henry. purely it's a passing league.
That Stefanski coming from Minnesota could figure out how to run the ball, though.
Yeah,
They're one of the few like true run first teams in the league. So
Well, you've even got teams with like incredible running backs that are definitely pass first.
Mhm.
Like
I think the
see-
definition of run first has changed. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
yeah.
But the definition of run first, I think, has changed. That we throw things out there and terms out there as run first. Going through, I guess, I mean, partially kind of going over to mine. Yes, I mean, as a Broncos fan, I'll kind of go with a little bit of the Broncos game. That my first thought watching the game, and I know he had, they ran a lot, but I feel like where the most effect, and Henry had a great effect in the passing game, but I felt like where Tennessee scored the most and moved the ball most successfully was passing. So they may be, but it's not that. So we don't, even that team with Derrick Henry, who averaged 4 yards a carry. Maybe I'm looking through it through Broncos colored glasses, but watching the game, I had no idea he was averaging 4 yards a carry. Like it felt like Denver was keeping him contained.
No, the scary thing about that is keeping him contained.
Like that, I didn't feel that he had the effect. I felt like the passing game was the thing that really affected that game. So that was just kind of thing that really kind of caught me. So that was going to say that my thought is we thought that Denver was going to have this really good pass rush, but without Von Miller, I really felt like Denver's defense was going to die, and maybe they're not. Like they did decently against that team, but that was kind of mine. I know yes, I had to get one homer one in there, but we've got a few that we can get in there. So,
well, I think I don't disagree. I don't disagree. The way that the running back game has gone is you have to be effective in the passing game or you're just not a good running back. We see that over the last 3 or so years, Zeke has gotten really involved in the Cowboys passing game. Saquon is super involved in the passing game. You'll see the guys that are really picking up in the guys that are really picking up in what is going on with your fantasy points are dual threat guys, C-Mac, Alvin Kamara, and then even the guy I said was going to be big, Josh Jacobs. As much as he runs, he's also a threat in the passing game. And Derrick Henry, while he's not a threat to catch, he's almost like having a second O-line behind your first O-line in pass blocking. He's really good as a pass blocker. And so it's something that you've got to be effective in, or you don't get to play running back. And that's just the way it's gone with running backs.
So I guess let me rephrase that's my hot take. I'm going to phrase my hot take, and my overreaction. The days of the traditional previous running back, they've been numbered, but I feel like they've always been on life support. They're dead. The running back is dead.
Yeah, your Priest Holmes, I'm just gonna run. That we're not gonna see someone like that anymore. The only thing we're gonna see out of running backs is guys get more versatile. Breaking news as we are talking, the Denver Nuggets have made another comeback, and they beat the LA Clippers, who have proven yet again they are incapable of making conference finals. And I am laughing so hard because it's awesome. Ben is very happy, I'm sure. But
Dave, do you have any thoughts on that? Maybe it wasn't that big of a take, but sorry, I'll think of something more out in a minute.
Well, like again, Seattle centric here. Like that one of the few like run first teams. Even the Seahawks only ran the ball like 13 times yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say. Being podcast correct.
Well, we're looking at what was it? Carlos Hyde played for us last year and was like, he was what, 7th in rushing attempts last year, and he's no offense, he's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not good. Like and David Johnson's going to be top 10, and he's not good either. It's just no one runs the ball anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think the definition of balance has changed.
Yeah.
Like the traditional definition of balance on your football team has been, do you have a close number of runs to passes? Now it's going to be how many people do you spread the ball around to? Like, do you get 8 or 9 guys involved in the passing game and then run just enough to keep the defenses honest?
And then can your quarterback run?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have tight ends that can both catch and block? You know, those are the things that are going to be big. It's going to be positional versatility as opposed to someone who is a specialist for anything.
I can see a future where the run comes back. Like if you look at the history of where or how we got here, it really started when Elway's light, fast Broncos beat those giant behemoths of the Packers in the Super Bowl in the late 90s. And it showed that speed and versatility can end up beating size and girth. And so if you run this out and you see the continuation of linemen continuing to get smaller and smaller and smaller, inevitably you might hit a point where the Giants return to the league and just get back to mauling. That is a possibility that I could see happening. Because all you need, like my old school triple option high school coach said, all you need to do is run and get the 3.5 yards per down, and you will always move the chains. I mean, Mike Allstott, all you got to do, get 3.5 yards, and you're just going to get a first down every time. So there is a future, if things continue on the trend, where the running back could return. But some of that, too, is also just financial. It is not – it doesn't make sense to pay your Priest Holmes, your Larry Johnsons, i.e. anybody, your Todd Gurley's. It doesn't make sense to pay those guys when you can get 2 or 3 of them in the 4th to 7th round, run them into the ground on a rookie contract, and then replace them as needed. Because the skills for what they need, you need to have a decent eyesight and decent decision-making to get 3.5 yards. You don't have to be all world to make one cut and then go uphill. Look at how many Broncos running backs they found that just said, make one cut, run ahead for 4 yards, and if you see daylight, hit it. So it's
how many teams have a high-paid running back that are actual Super Bowl threats right now?
None.
No, I mean, maybe the Saints. Did they pay Kamara? Have they paid Kamara yet?
Yeah.
No,
they paid him on Friday.
They've extended him, but the contract has not had cap effect until next year.
Yeah,
So,
but he getting paid. He got paid. Yeah.
But we say he got paid, but he hasn't actually gotten paid yet. He's agreed to get paid, but that payment doesn't come until next year. So they're still operating this year as though he's not paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2 years, you will be looking at a team that is running back based, which I mean, will not be in Super Bowl contention.
Well, in 2 years, they're not going to be in Super Bowl contention because.
Hang on, Jonathan. Go ahead, Dave.
I said it'll be interesting to see how the salary cap going down further affects this, because it's set to go down for the first time in I don't know how many years next year because of all of this and the lost revenue.
Yeah.
What?
I'm going to go on to your next take. Dave, if you've got one. I think you're the next one up.
I think I'm going to go with the Belichick system works regardless of quarterback. I think that with Cam Newton, they might even be better than they were last year with Tom Brady.
I agree, but that's more to do with the fact that Tom Brady is 43 than Cam Newton is like a world beater.
I mean, forget that Cam Newton went to the last 6 seasons he was healthy, he went to the deep into the playoffs 4 times.
Like, so one, I like Cam, and probably more than anyone else who's a regular on the podcast, I like Cam. I just, he's a little limited, but Cam is Cam is almost like Cam is going to give you more than Brady gave you last year. Cam makes the same type of adjustments at the line. It's maybe not the same amount of changes as Brady, but if you look at tape, Cam Newton is up there calling audibles the same amount of times that Brady was. He may not be always making the correct decision, but Cam is in that same mold. And then Cam's got legs. Like it's just
Had legs.
Well, I think
2 rushing touchdowns yesterday.
4 of us could run faster than Tom Brady.
Yeah, like I don't have an ACL in my left knee, and I am confident I could beat Tom Brady in a foot race. Like I am confident. Granted, I'm 26 and Tom Brady's 43, but yeah.
But my big assertion there, I think, is that as much of a knock as Cam Newton has for being a me first, kind of like look at me guy, I think he is a very unselfish quarterback. And I think inherently Bill Belichick asks his quarterback to be unselfish. So I think that he might be the perfect fit in New England. And at least week 1 overreaction, Belichick's system seems to work.
So I don't know if I want to say Belichick. So maybe we might be in agreement here. So it's the system has changed. I think this is there's a reason I've always referred to Belichick as the evil genius. Like, no, he is the emperor. He is the one who moves all of the pieces around on all sides, who sees everything big, who then also adapts to whatever he's given. If that system is you have a coach who, again, he's evil and he does this. He's an evil genius. So I'm about to say something that sounds like I'm complimenting Belichick. I'm not, because he's evil.
Man. The more I watch them, the more I appreciate them. We're never going to see that kind of goodness again.
You respect evil geniuses. Like, you respect evil geniuses. You respect the Joker because he's an evil genius. Like, you're terrified and afraid of him because he's an evil genius. Is being an evil genius a system? Or is being smarter than everyone a system? Being able to react, if they plugged in and ran the same offense and he was doing better, this is not the same. Again, there were multiple called quarterback runs. What was the last time Bill Belichick ever called a quarterback run? That system has changed.
The last time he called a quarterback run was when Jacoby Brissett was playing while Tom Brady was injured.
Yeah.
He definitely is a genius. I mean, he saw the dumpster fire that was the Jets and bailed on them, 24 hours after agreeing to be their head coach. He definitely can read the room and see the future.
But Belichick hasn't always been this good. Like, he was a below average coach for the Browns.
The Browns.
No, that was the – wait, was that the current Browns or was that the good Browns that are now the Ravens that he was with?
That was became the Ravens.
Yeah, so, I mean, and he was below average with them, and then now he's really good.
There is something in the
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
there's something in the water source in Cleveland. There just is. They really do not utilize people. They do not put together teams. You look at the Indians. The Indians should have competed for more World Series right now. The Cavs, you know, you take LeBron James, and that is a dumpster fire for the last 30 years. He took the worst team.
The Cavs had to have the most talented player in like pure talent player in the history of that sport to win a championship.
And then look, I mean, just look at that classic meme of the new Browns with the QB from Couch with all of the names of the quarterbacks down. It's down to what, 23, 24 starting QBs since they've returned. There's something in the water in Cleveland. And so you can't.
John Elway broke that city.
Or he was smart enough to realize this is just going.
The drive broke that city. Like the collective everything energy of that city, John Elway just broke it with the drive.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
While we're talking about head coaches and systems and confusion, Kyle's going to hate this take, but
I know where you're going.
Bruce Arians breeds interceptions. That's all it is. Like everyone who quarterbacks for Bruce Arians throws interceptions. Rookie Andrew Luck threw 18. Blaine Gabbert threw a ton of interceptions. Carson Palmer threw a ton of interceptions. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw a ton of interceptions. Jameis Winston threw all of the interceptions ever. Like it's just this is not a referendum on Tom Brady's career. This is not Tom Brady was just a system quarterback. It's Tom Brady is 43 years old. He's trying to do a little bit too much. And his chemistry is not there because there was no preseason. And all of those things with a system that prioritizes gambling for big plays is gonna have turnovers. It's not that you can't win with it. It's not that it won't help him compete, but there's gonna be a lot of interceptions because it's the nature of the beast.
I would like to run through that list of quarterbacks that you stated. Rookie QBs, regardless of the system, throw picks. That's what happens. So comparing rookie Andrew Luck, and then you went down Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert should never be validation for a system working or not working ever. Ever.
200-year-old Carson
period. Carson Palmer, maybe. Carson Palmer, though, is a USC quarterback. And there is nothing more overrated in the NFL than a USC quarterback.
Speaking of USC quarterbacks, Matt Leinart also threw a bunch of interceptions in the Bruce Arians system.
I'm a Pac-12 fan. Never draft a USC quarterback. They're going to fail you every single time. They compete in a not SEC conference with an SEC conference roster. Obviously, they look great. I'm a Beavers fan. They smoke us. Never draft a USC quarterback based upon what they do against Oregon State. The rest of that list, Jameis Winston cannot make good decisions in life or on the field. He is not a good decision maker, period. And then you put in 43-year-old Tom Brady, who in the text line, as you stated, is only the third guy in the NFL to start a game at 43. This is not
technically the fourth. There was some dude in 1921, but I didn't count him.
So you cannot fault Bruce. If anything, it is an incredible success to Bruce Arians that he's coached for as long as he has with the list of the quarterbacks that you just named. Because only two of them, only Andrew Luck was great, and it was his rookie season. And Carson Palmer is Carson Palmer. He is your vanilla ice cream. You don't regret eating it, but it is never your favorite, ever. It is just
Yeah, but that system. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Hang on. Dave, go ahead.
I'm just agreeing with all of you. I've got nothing more to add than has already been said as far as that goes. Because I can't stand Bruce Arians.
I'll extend the take. I don't think it's Arians. I mean, you kind of hinted at it. No, I think this is kind of one of those ones that I say this is a continuation of last year. Brady's done. Now these probably still make the playoffs because of who else they have on that team. No, Brady's done. Brady should have retired, and that's not. He has tied the second place record for most consecutive pick sixes or games of pick sixes. 2 of those were with the Patriots last year. 3 consecutive games of the pick six.
As the guy who had to watch Matt Schaub put up not only the 3 that Brady is now tied with, but also the separate streak of 5 that is the record. Not fun to watch your quarterback throw pick sixes. But the thing is, it's not that big of a deal because the system prioritizes the gamble.
Yeah, what was
I don't think it's that.
What was the gamble on the swing pass that became the pick six?
So the swing pass that became the pick six that was very obviously 2 guys that aren't communicating right because they didn't get a preseason. Because Mike Evans cut one way and Tom Brady threw it like he was cutting the other way. It was a very obvious miscommunication. And it's really just they didn't get a preseason together. So and some of that'll iron out. But they call it the air raid system for a reason because it prioritizes gambling and going for it. It's going to breed pick sixes. It's just not that big of a deal.
All right, go ahead and go to our next take here. We got to at least get 2 of us each. Mm-hmm. So go ahead and I think Kyle, did Jonathan work? Kyle's up.
I do have one. I don't intentionally mean to wade into politics, but my hot take after watching week 1 is this. The NFL TV ratings will be down at least 10% the rest of the season. The ratings were down 12.5% over last year, and people had nothing to do. There's a lot of places that are still in lockdown and restrictions with COVID, and the NFL could not pull ratings in that environment with minimal activities to do elsewhere. It is a shocking thing to state, and this will be a trend that will carry forth for all of 2020, and we will have the lowest viewed Super Bowl in the last 25 years coming up here. That'll be my biggest hot take of that.
I first thought that maybe it was just kind of an argument to refute, but then I remembered how they work. That they said sports bars are closed, but sports bar watching never actually accounts for ratings. Or if it does, it accounts for like 1 person. I'm not sure, but so because that was my first thing. The place where I normally go to watch Broncos games, because it is classified primarily as a bar. In Scottsdale, primarily bars, I think are still closed. They offer food, but it's classified primarily as a bar, and it's closed. So I wonder if that, by an extension, directly it has no effect on the numbers, but
the hype for it. But a lot of the hype for watching any games is, hey, let's all go over to so and so who's got the big TV, and let's all watch the games. So that's inevitably going to go down. People are in general looking for streaming stuff, and the NFL is not going to fix their ratings until they fix blackouts on streaming services. No sports league is going to fix the ratings issue until they fix the local blackouts on streaming services. And
I know it's
And
impossible, but it would be interesting if they tried to measure somehow the quantity of illegal streams as much as possible. Because the NFL knows where these are.
yeah,
I mean, a quick Google search can find you the places to stream the NFL games. They're not extremely difficult to find. But I'm viewing my social media feed in the quantity of people that I know who used to be big NFL fans who over the past 5 years have pulled back. It matches up with that 10% decline. You obviously are still going to have your fans, but your casual people that you need to succeed for a league, they're not turning in. They're not saying, "Hey, here's my extra time on Sunday because I feel like you are a worthwhile thing to invest in," and you need them. You cannot base any league based upon the hardcore people. You can't.
could you repeat
And
that? And can we at Rob Manfred?
you can't base anything though off of the hardcore guys because they're always going to be there. You need the folks like my dad who's going to tune in sporadically. And when he just decides that it's not worth his time anymore, then you have a major problem because you need those casual eyeballs to succeed. I know David alluded to the fact of what's going to happen with the salary cap going down. This could be a trend over several years because if Fox and ESPN are not getting their money, the way that they've got these contracts set up in 5 to 7 year scales is they want to see how the market's doing. They're not going to shell out more cash coming forward to pick up products that don't pull the ratings like they used to. So it is a big problem. I'm not taking a side on either of them politically. My hot take is just the ratings are going to be down about 10% all
My
year.
add to that take is that's not going to change regardless of what they do politically.
Yeah.
Well,
I
so
think
to,
there's a
count,
cultural
to
shift.
counter that. So we've got 4 leagues currently playing right now. One has improved. I'm looking right now at the numbers right now. One league has actually increased in ratings.
Did the NHL jump from 2 to 5 watchers?
The NHL has increased. It's up 4% from last year. Which,
Yeah.
okay, 4% doesn't sound like much.
But that's because it's actually
everything else has fallen. And say again, we don't need to turn it into a political podcast, but which has been the one league that says, you know what, we're going to acknowledge what's going on. We're going to have, some banners and acknowledge what's happening, but we're not going to make it the focal point. We're not going to make it a focal point of what we're doing. We're going to let our focus be on the game. That's been the NHL has been the only one to do that. All of the other ones have said, no, we're going to embrace this idea of something beyond our sport as a focal point. The NBA has been more than any others. I'm not going to say better or worse, but more than any others, the NBA is there, and the NBA has had suffered worse rating drops than even the NFL has.
One could also highlight the pigment of said players in said leagues for why they are active and inactive. The NHL is not exactly what we would call your beacon of diversity in comparison to the other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
True, but like I said, I'm talking. But again, more people are.
And that might be why their ratings are up, because people tend to watch sports as escapism from stuff, and this stuff hits home for a lot of people, and a lot of people have to deal with this stuff that is being protested in their real lives. I, for one, am extremely excited that we live in a country where the worst thing that's happening when our athletes protest is someone makes an angry Facebook post and doesn't watch the league. We saw this week a professional wrestler from Iran, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to butcher it. He was executed by the Iranian government for being involved with protests against the government. And so I, for one, am happy that that's the worst thing that's happening to people that are protesting. And we can, and it stinks, but I think the leagues can recover when that is, the protesting is here to stay. There's no way players give up that power. No way. And I don't feel from an ethical standpoint that they should. But I do think the people being upset with the protesting as the national narrative begins to switch away from that, because inevitably it always does, because there'll be something else for people to be upset by. When the national narrative switches away from that, people who still want some escapism will watch sports again, and they won't worry about what's being protested because it's not going to be what they're trying to escape.
But anything to add, Dave, before we go to our last one?
I think that you're on the button with the fact that it's going to go down. But I think it is also, I'll take a little different spin on it. And I think it's because people are not wanting to spend as much time in front of the TV. I think if anything that this lockdown and subsequent, like, kind of quarantine, if you want to call it that, has taught, at least myself, like, face-to-face relationships are so much more important than a stupid football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I have an opportunity to go invest in relationships, invest in my family, like, football's not appointment viewing anymore. And I'm one of the biggest Seahawks fans out there. Like, I'll put a Seahawks game down and follow it on my phone, like, when I got a chance. If it, and I think all of us being kind of church-oriented people, like, speaking to the Facebooks and all of that, like, kind of live in an echo chamber. The people who have the biggest problem with this are the, I hate to say it, conservative Christian white males. And, if we're not turning it in political, but that needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that.
So I'm gonna end us with one more take. I'm gonna put us on a better note. All right. The Jacksonville Jaguars not only do not get the number 1 overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars with Gardner Minshew make a wild card.
My affinity for the numbers, and when I look at things, currently the Jaguars are on pace to go undefeated for the entire season, which is incredible. So that's the numbers. The numbers do not lie. You run out their schedule throughout the entire year, and they won their first game, and all they have to do is win everyone after that, and they're undefeated. Ergo, the Jags are going undefeated.
I don't know if they're going undefeated, but Gardner Minshew has to be one of the coolest personalities that has graced sports in a long time. And is he the next great late round quarterback to actually be slightly decent? Like, is he the next in that line of what is the last guy that's been late or undrafted that was really good?
A guy I will give him, a comp I'll give him to. But you also know that so everyone else really likes this guy, but I don't think he was ever really anything. I think he was a product of a system that's set up around him and good wide receivers around him. But even given that, if Jacksonville does the same thing, I think he's Tony Romo.
Yeah, that was where my brain went too.
That is his high end. But again, Tony Romo's numbers are weird. He had coaches whose owner, Czar, told them pass the ball because it looks good for film and people want us to pass the ball. So he got more opportunities to pass it than he probably ever should have. But yeah, I think and he doesn't have Cowboys fandom, but he has this hokey other fandom.
Oh, he's got the oddball fans.
Yeah, like he's got this oddball. Like, no, you unlike Tony Romo, because the Cowboys have for every person who loves the Cowboys, and there are a lot of people who love the Cowboys, there are 3 people that hate the Cowboys.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they love you or hate you. If they're tweeting about you, you're popular.
Yeah, there is that. But Minshew, on the other hand, actually, question: do University of Washington people don't like?
Oh, we hate one.
Do you not like Minshew, or do you like look at him and be like, no, you know what? You're from Washington. You are a guy now.
I'm the weird guy who is a UW fan but grew up with 2 parents who are Wazoo alum. So, like, I do have a soft spot in my heart for Wazoo. So, like, I was a big Drew Bledsoe fan growing up. I think Gardner Minshew is awesome the same way I think Gronk is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
They're big personalities and they're good for the game because, I mean, as we've talked about, like, it's escapism. So you want to come watch a fun story like Gardner Minshew and his jorts slugging a handle of vodka and having a sweet mustache and just going crazy. But I think that Gardner Minshew is going to be one of those guys that, again, like we're talking culture, like something in the water in Cleveland. Like Cleveland can't get out of its own way. Like you look at Jacksonville, they cut some of these bigger name people like Leonard Fournette in efforts to change culture. And a guy like Gardner Minshew will band together a team. And he did that up at Wazoo. He changed them from kind of that middle of the pack to challenging for a Pac-12 North title in his 1 year there. And he got people talking about Wazoo, and that carried over into the next year. And I think that'll be good for Jacksonville. But I think it'll be kind of like they got to stay in their own lane.
And don't underestimate the fact that they got a more competent GM. I mean, low bar.
Coughlin's not doing it for you?
Yeah, I mean, low bar to go from there to more competent, and then they got rid of guys who it was just really obvious didn't want to be there anymore. Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell, they didn't want to be there, and honestly, if some of those stories were true, I wouldn't want to be there. Like
when the NFL Players Union says, hey, we have had 30 grievances we've had to file against teams, and 17 of them are against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is our recommendation as your union representatives that you not sign with them because they will not honor their contract. Like, you want to talk about culture shifts. Jacksonville is a place that needed tremendous culture shifts. And I hope they get it. But look at the timeline. Jacksonville 2 years ago was in the AFC conference finals. Like, they were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and they had to strip that to the studs because the culture was so toxic that good people just said, I'm not showing up to deal with this. This is a mess.
Is Blake Bortles still alive?
I think he's a witness protection, getting ready to testify against Tom Coughlin for 38 counts of attempted manslaughter, which is what he did to the bulk of the people who are under contract. It was just – but even there, like Shad, the owner should have known better than to hire Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin was infamous his first time around for being a red-faced individual. He was infamous in the Giants for doing this. And then you took away the only strength of Tom Coughlin, which was his coaching ability, and said, just be a representative and choose out people. And you're like, he's bad at that. He's not good at his job. And he tanked it. And you want fun stories to succeed.
Can I add to the hot takiness here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Gardner Minshew keeps the Jaguars from moving to London.
Granted, as much as you say that, is there a better individual to move an NFL team to London with than Gardner? Who epitomizes?
You know what? I take my take back. That would be the perfect face of a franchise in London.
See?
No, I take my
The only
take back.
franchise he has better. It's the only place people that he has better teeth than. So I mean, it kind of works.
I might need to edit that out.
Come on now. But I mean, if you think the Jags are having a hard time attracting players now, like, move them to London. Like, these guys aren't going to want to uproot their families and move halfway across the globe.
And pay UK tax rates.
Right?
Yeah, as someone who's spent quite a bit of time in London, I'd rather be in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville ain't that great.
No. Like, your dollar-to-dollar equivalent is brutal in London. That is NYC level expensive. Plus, we've all acknowledged it won't work. Dealing with that far, if the Seahawks had to go play against the Jags in London, that is a 10-hour flight. As an individual who lives in Asia, jet lag is no joke, and you don't just jump up after 2 days taking a 10-hour flight and like, yeah, I can definitely go compete on a world-class schedule against the best athletes on the planet. It's a train wreck. At least when they do London games, both teams are suffering from the same level of stupid exhaustion jet lag. It's an equalish field. But
with that, I think we're going to go ahead and call it. We've been here talking to you guys for a little bit. If there's any others that you guys have, go ahead and put them in the comments. Let us know what take we missed. If you got your own hot take, I mean there are a bunch. There are a bunch of easy overreactions to have. ESPN had a bunch. Some of the looking at the ESPN power rankings, some of the movement they put in just because of one way, it just kind of. I mean, we just mentioned the Jags. Jags went from 30, the Jags jumped 6 spots. Like, as we said, a hot take, and I know it was my hot take. They were projected to be the last place team. They beat a Colts team that I still think is really overrated going in. That's what they did.
I think it was more of
I think the Colts are awful, and then Marlon Mack being hurt is not helpful.
Exactly, but they still jumped them like many spots. So I mean, I'm not the only one that's overreacting on that, but it's just fun. So go look at that, and it's always it's one of my favorite things really about Week 1 is the overreactions, and especially this year, we didn't even hint at any of the rookies who didn't go through. I was really expecting someone to tell me that that Judy is a drop, that he's incapable of catching passes because he had 2 drops in his first game.
How mad is Joe Burrow that he has to play for the Bengals after being on that just stacked LSU team?
He knew what he was doing. He knew what was happening.
I mean, he's getting paid. He doesn't care. And he actually
conspiracy theorist me thinks he was getting paid at LSU, but yeah.
Well, he definitely was. The SEC pays their players. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Coach Joe was giving them crawfish every week, so.
Well, with that, guys, we'll see you next week. Leave us a comment with your favorite take, and we'll catch you guys next week.